Yep, we are back with some more BSL. We are down to our final group, and now we've got our former king, trutaCz, going up against two newcomers in Michael and Sneazel, and then we've also got the Chilean hope in Tech. So we've got a lot of PvZ coming at you. So what do you think about this group, Mihai? Can somebody like Michael with his sneaky cheese make an upset versus trutaCz, or do you think this is the season that trutaCz bounces back?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I know trutaCz has been inactive until very recently and kind of just started playing the ladder at the last minute and made it into the tournament. Of course, he is the BSL, well, you call him king, but I think we used to call him the prince of BSL American, so he is back, maybe to reclaim his throne, I guess. Because we kept saying prince because he lost his throne, man. Come on. But I don't know. Anyway, you can't just look at me like that, man. Like,
sure I can.
Well, I don't know. I'm excited though, because like you said, two newcomers in Michael and Sneazel. Now, apparently Sneazel is kind of an old school player here from Poland, and you gotta think about the Polish Protoss royalty. I mean, you got Boneth, obviously, Draco, Yeba, Misters. The list goes on. Dreven. Dude, Polish Protosses have always been absolutely nuts. And, you know, if Sneazel is Polish and he is Protoss, he might also be pretty nuts.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, does anybody else that's a Polish Protoss pull out one base plate? Because, sure, we know Bonnet can do that, but since I don't have any info on Sneazel, I'm thinking maybe that's something that he could pull out in his series. I have to see who's our first matchup going to be. I thought it was trutaCz versus Tech is our first matchup. Now, trutaCz, this is completely my opinion, but I think that trutaCz's weakest matchup is ZVP. Even though I've seen VODs of him playing and beating pro gamers, I really like his mutant control in ZVZ and ZVP. And my experience versus Tech is Tech likes to build gateway units, and he likes to build a lot of them. So if he's able to hit a slick timing and trutaCz, you know, miss macros or misreads the situation, there is a real scenario where trutaCz gets run over. And I'm trying to think about previous season, like wasn't Tech the one that almost got a victory versus the Walt? I feel like we saw that on Eclipse where he just flat out had more stuff than DeWalt and ended up winning the game.
Well, he did. He ended up losing that game, but he was very close, and that's exactly what I was gonna bring up here. Is that Tech, he almost had that god win against DeWalt, and you know, he could keep it up here against another BSL royalty in trutaCz. But we'll have to see. I mean, he does have his work cut out for him. You know, according to the BSL stats, his versus Zerg is his best matchup. You can see trutaCz, actually, his versus Protoss is his best matchup. And, you know, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Nyokin, on that one. I think ZVP is probably trutaCz's best matchup. Either that or ZVZ. But, I mean, his ZVP, yeah, we've seen him sometimes, like, I've seen him struggle in a game against Snow. But that's against Snow. And against all of the other kind of non-Korean Protosses, he has had very good success. And here against Tech, I can only imagine him to be significantly favored. But like I said, trutaCz has been essentially a bit inactive until very recently, whereas Tech, he's, you know, as far as I know, he has been playing. And Tech is, again, a dangerous player.
Yeah, of course, since I'm not Zerg, I don't know how he plays PvC, but we'll get into that after we start this game. The map is ready, so let's get into game one. It is trutaCz versus Tech. Righty, in the top right, one of the best BSL players of all time, it is trutaCz.
In the bottom left, in the blue, Protoss from Chile. And the clan DM. It is Tech.
Well, I would like to see a macro game, but I'm secretly hoping we get to see some shenanigans. And since Quark showed us some shenanigans yesterday, it could be fresh in Tech's mind that, like, hey man, I could do something like that versus TrueTouch potentially. You know, when you're going up against somebody of the stature of TrueTouch, sometimes you feel like you may not be able to win going with a standard build. So it wouldn't surprise me if Tech ends up opting into something very sneaky. We do see a very fast scout coming with the probe, and it is sneaking around the right side. So this looks like he may try and sneak something like a pylon block to deny that natural. Now, Zerg players these days generally go for something like 9 pool or overpool. I don't necessarily expect there to be 12 hatch. It looks like it is going to be an overpool.
Yeah, overpool is kind of the build of choice here, generally in this matchup. The hatchery first can be a bit high variance and a bit risky. But yeah, I mean, overpool is nice. We'll have to see, you know, Tech, does he go for that forge? It looks like it's actually, yeah, it's a forge.
So
and he has a probe at bottom right, so...
Yeah. So what he was intending to do here was hide the probe, show the second probe, and go for a cannon rush if this was a 12 hatch. Unfortunately for him, that's not the case. Now, I guess the saving grace here is that potentially this probe or this hatch goes down. I know that TrueTouch, I think, likes to build 2 lings only. And if the 2 lings leave the base, he can still cannon rush this Nexus or this hatchery.
This would be so epic, man. I'm actually so excited. I'm so surprised that Tech just kind of knows that you can't see the probe there. Because, you know, Tech had like his additional probe come in here, so he had vision of the hatchery and the Overlord, and he's just kind of like, no, I know they can't see my probe in this corner here. And like you said, Nyokin, if TrueTouch just make these... he's not going to see the pylon. If he actually warps in a couple of cannons... And the thing is, TrueTouch also didn't go for like any kind of drone scout. Only now are the Zerglings going to make it to Tech's natural. And he's not going to see the next... Like, it doesn't even matter that he doesn't see the Nexus. These cannons are going to be finished. Now, if this hatchery gets canceled, I feel like that would be okay for TrueTouch. But if it finishes and dies...
He needs to spam stop on that cannon because he does not want this hatchery to get canceled. Now, he didn't stop it, but is TrueTouch going to react? He does cancel.
God,
and
dude!
That is actually a saving move for TrueTouch right there. I got to mention this because there's a lot going on with this play that is very subtle. First off, I think that probe is locked in. However, this second probe is still alive. If that hatch dies, first off, huge loss, obviously. But because there's a second probe here, potentially this probe could set up more cannons outside the hatch, outside that ramp, and then Zerg never gets out of his base. Now, I'm a very long time ago former Zerg player, and I have had experience like this. And let me just say, if you ever get locked in your base without a hatch out in the map, it's over. Like, it's almost impossible to win. So for this hatchery to be canceled, and now he actually is able to have 2 other hatches out on the map, is a huge win. And I'm actually kind of surprised that he didn't use that second probe to build more cannons and then really lock TrueTouch in his face.
Yeah, well, okay, the thing is, man, it's such a shame because Tech could have, like you said, spam stopped on the cannons or even issued an attack order for the cannons to hit his pylon or anything, but really, like, it's such a shame, man, because this is the kind of build that you prepare. So he should have thought about this situation in his practice, and he should have known better. Canceling, basically, if Zerg doesn't cancel there, game is totally over. Now, that being said, Protoss is still ahead because basically he essentially got his own Nexus around the same time as TrueTouch's third hatchery, which is actually his second hatchery. So even though Tech committed a lot of resources to these 2 cannons and the pylon there, I think overall, it's actually quite good for him. Though that being said, the lair is finished and the Spire is on the way because trutaCz, of course, with that cancelled hatchery, essentially accelerated his tech to compensate here. So really nice counterplay there from trutaCz. We'll have to see. The Zerglings are coming in here, but this is a really nice wall by Tech. trutaCz does focus fire the probes, but only gets one Zergling into Tech's main. That was a really nice probe pull, or like a small probe pull there at the end from Tech to block the remaining of the Zerglings from getting in. And you can see Tech is actually getting a cannon, so he is aware, obviously, of this fast lair. It looks like trutaCz is getting the second gas, so 100% we will be seeing Mutalisks from him. And here's where, is that building warping in at the bottom of Stargate? I would hope so. Yeah, it is. Okay, so it's almost done also, and he has cannons ready for the Mutalisk. So honestly, Tech is in a really nice spot here. Again, trutaCz definitely made the best out of his situation, and I wouldn't say anyone has a definite advantage, but if I'm Tech, I'm pretty happy with how this has gone so far.
I think I like trutaCz's position quite a bit because he really didn't have his build hindered that much. Getting back the resources, he was able to put up a hatchery at top middle. Sure, he's not mining there for as long as he wanted, but his Spire is considerably faster than the Sair. Scourge, potentially Mutas, are going to be coming out, and there's not a single Sair out just yet. Also, it's so far along, I don't even know if Tech would be feeling confident to use it to scout. So yep, Mutas are coming out, and this is something that trutaCz likes to do. When he realizes that your anti-air is lacking, he will put pressure onto you with some Mutalisks. I like that Tech is upgrading weapon in his cybernetics, so that tells me that he is slowly going to build up that Sair count, and that is exactly what he needs going up against what trutaCz is doing. We don't see Citadel, I don't think, anywhere, so that Tech is super delayed. Sair does come in and see the Spire, and there's only one cannon for defense in the main. Maybe a Sair has popped up, but look at that Zealot. He's getting a couple kills at top middle.
Yeah, the Zealot is doing a lot of damage, actually. This is huge for Tech, and also Tech has cannons all over the place. Tech is playing beautifully. Of course, trutaCz, again,
Oh my gosh.
the Zealot is going to do so much for Tech, but this is really a good spot to be in as Protoss, without a doubt. I mean, the thing is, this timing from trutaCz is still going to be really scary. 5 kills on that Zealot is massive, and trutaCz is just ignoring it. Third cannon warping in, so Tech feels as though all he needs to do is hold on here. He does obviously Mutalisks
Oh my God.
hatching from this hatchery and going to his main base. He does see the second gas. He knows it's 3 hatcheries, so he knows all he has to do is play defensively, and honestly, Tech is playing superbly here, though. It is kind of weird that he is still behind in supply. The problem is that despite the fact that trutaCz is ahead in supply, it's all in Mutalisks. So if Tech ever gets to kind of that critical mass of Corsairs, even though trutaCz has a lot of supply, his actual supply will effectively be less than what you would expect with under normal circumstances, because the Corsairs are just going to be so effective at dealing with their counterparts in the Mutalisks. So we'll have to see here. Tech is starting to add gateways too, so he should shoot up in supply soon enough. And remember, trutaCz has been on this 3 hatchery for a long time, whereas most Zergs in this situation would be on 5 hatcheries. So definitely not economically where he could be, but this Air Force is quite substantial from him.
Well, that's going to be an Archon morph, and if he can just get, a round or 2 of Zealots comboed with 1 or 2 Archons and his Sairs, there's really not much defense for Tech or for trutaCz right now. 3 gates are up, so the Zealot count is going to take a little bit of time to build up. This is so dangerous to be fighting with the Mutalisk right now. The Sairs might even
Oh my God.
Oh, that's a big hit onto all of the Mutalisks. I'm so surprised trutaCz was willing to risk that. Sure, if he gets the Archon, that's a huge win for him, but he could take so many losses so quickly. Looks like those cannons have been wiped out, so maybe trutaCz will think about taking that base pretty soon. Now, something that I didn't think about is, a lot of times Zergs are able to just sit and defend their nat, and that covers their main, and then, spam hatches and SimCity at their third base to cover the third base. But now the main is completely exposed since he has no natural. Muta's coming in again. They're playing with fire making moves like this.
Yeah, that's totally right, Nayokin. There are some drawbacks to expanding like this as Zerg, and we will maybe see it abused here by Tech, but definitely Tech is playing so well, man. Everything he's done this game has made a lot of sense. The biggest misstep was just that cannon firing onto the hatchery, but you know, that being said, he's navigating this space correctly, and look at this timing here. He does have 6 to 7 to maybe even 8 Corsairs, but a bit light on the gateway count. You know, I think he just expects Zerg to be on only Mutalisks still, but it looks trutaCz actually is just such a great Zerg versus Protoss player. Like, somehow he has those 6 hatcheries going. He has like perfect saturation everywhere. Like, look at this, absolutely amazing macro from him. So I think that's gonna kind of surprise Tech in a sense, because it looks like Tech is not really respecting him too much by moving out, but now he's gonna pull back. These zealots are gonna push out. There's 3 zealots running into trutaCz's army, so I think he knows. Yeah, he gets a feel for how much the Zerg actually has. Does pull them back. More Templar popping out. He is only on 6 gateways, you know. 2 base Protoss usually goes up to 8 gates, so he still has some room to either go for that 7th and 8th gateway, or maybe he's thinking about taking an extra early 3rd base. Looks like from how he's playing though, he wants to just mass up. Again, Protoss, the death ball kind of PVZ army occurs around 130 supply, I would say, so still has some time to wait until he can be sure that his army will trade effectively against this mid-game Zerg. But it looks like by flying around here with the Corsairs, he's getting a lot of vision. He's going to kill a lot of Overlords, and he might move out.
Those died so fast that I feel like they don't have armor. Like, those Overlords got murdered. Wow. I guess theirs are just that strong. They do have +1 armor, yet 2 Overlords instantly popped. And if he finds these Mutalisks, that's going to be 4 Mutalisks down the drain, basically for free. Oh, he does find them, and they're okay. They are barely going to survive, but they're heavily damaged. They basically can't be used. I did see that the robotics is done for Tech, so he's going to be going into that goon comp pretty soon. And this is going to be an awkward situation because the Hydras are moving around the right side. Meanwhile, Templars and Zealots and Archons are moving through the center. I guess trutaCz suspects something because now he's turning around, and this was a smart move. But is there enough? Because that's a lot of Zealots.
I really like, dude, Tech is playing out of his mind. All he has to do here is get some nice storms off. That's a lot of Zealots. The Archon also is going to do a lot of work. He's going to run up here, but his units are starting to bunch up a bit. The Templar are going to go down before storming. Actually, they didn't even have an energy for storm, so that's going to be an Archon. And now he has no storms to work with. These Corsairs need to fly around and find Overlords. They're kind of just AFKing here. That's not what you want to have happen, but at the same time, half of Tech's army is dealing damage to the drone, so this is really, really good situation for the Protoss. And now the Corsairs are going to go and hunt for Overlords, and this is going to be such a disastrous situation to be in as trutaCz. He's getting absolutely mauled at his 3rd base, and all these Overlords, they're just going to get evaporated by the Corsairs.
And he's just getting run over by the Zealots too. Look how many Zealots are left over. Now, luckily for trutaCz, he has a ton of Overlords, but they're all going to pop. And this was a massacre. What looked like was going to be a decent mid-game for trutaCz has now been, he's just been dominated. He's now going to be some fly block. He was 85 out of 140. Now he's 60 out of 54. He's denied the 3rd base, but he's losing his own 3rd base. Also, that's where all the macro hatches are. So that's half of the production gone. And this is Tech bringing it to our BSL champion, or previous BSL champion.
The Prince. Well, Tech played out of his mind this game. Just everything executed perfectly. Responds to absolutely everything. GG. trutaCz taps out. And surprise, surprise, the Chilean makes it to the winner's match.
Yeah, that was really nicely done from Tech. When the cannons, or when the hatchery got canceled, I thought all of a sudden this dream scenario where you get a denied hatchery is all for naught, and that trutaCz was going to bring it back. But his build order was on point. He built enough Stairs to deal with the Mutalisks. The Mutalisks, I thought at some point, we're going to be able to poke in and pop the cannon and eventually overrun the Stairs, but that didn't happen. And then, even though, remember, Tech didn't have that many gateways, yet somehow he went from having like 2 Zealots to just like 30 of them at the end.
Yeah. No. Dude, I'm telling you, man, Tech played that perfectly. Like, he actually, unironically, played extremely well. I mean, he literally just, everything that he did was the correct choice. The biggest mistake was just having that cannon fire onto the hatchery, but then he, like, because everything he was doing was really good. So it's going to be it for the first game there. Surprising result, but going on to the second game, we are going to have the two newcomers here, Sneazel versus Michael. Now, we know a bit about Michael because we're NA players, but I don't know anything about Sneazel. Michael is that type of aggressive player, but what do you think? Have you maybe
never played Michael, so you're gonna have to inform me and the viewers of Michael's playstyle. I know people say he cheeses, but I mean that can be all types of things. It could be Ling all-in, like is he the guy that Ling all-ins, or is when you think of cheese, is he somebody that like does 2-hatch lurker drop like EDP or something like
that? Michael is kind of like a, he's like a tie too on it. Well, no, I don't know. Michael is just kind of like a YOLO player, but we'll have to see. I haven't seen him play ZVP, you know, so I don't want to make any conjectures from other matchups. But yeah, again, dude, I'm excited to see these two players because, of course, there are newcomers here. Sneazel, again, Polish Protoss. Yeah, I mean, there's really, who knows? I mean, this is where we learn about these players. You know, like, you can't really make any kind of guesses as to what we're going to see, but for sure, either of these players are going to, no matter whether they win or they lose, they're going to have their work cut out for them in the next games. But yeah, here we have the two players. You can see very beautiful faces. Of course, StarCraft players are quite handsome, as we all know. I mean, just look at the two of us. And, but you can see that no games played. So, we're going to go in. Zero trolling us as well.
I saw in the profile picture that MMRs are very similar, so I'll just assume that they're somewhat evenly matched. You can see that both of them are newcomers, not even Ghost League or Turbo League appearances. This is their first time completely in BSL. As Mihai has mentioned, I don't have any experience versus Sneazel at all. I don't recognize his ID even from ladder. Michael, I recognize his ID simply from what people have told me, but I don't think I played him unless he smurfed me. From what people have told me, he just is a cheesy person, but you know, cheese, there's all varieties. As I said, it could be Lingoland, could be Type 2S, which means it could be 5-pull, could be lurker, could be Hydra drops versus mech and stuff like that. So really not too sure what Michael's gonna have in store for us. Personally, I always love the cheese, doing air quotes right now, of the Ling lurker bust on the cannons. We saw Eon Zerg attempt that versus Bonnet. So just talking out loud, I would like to see that from Michael if he's gonna go for something crazy.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Michael isn't just like a necessarily full all-in player. He does play, he can play those longer kind of macro games, but definitely you have a couple different types of players, and you know, Michael's more of that type of player where it's like, I'm gonna get this advantage in this earlier advantage and try to ride that into the late game, whereas you have some macro players are more like solid and steady. They won't get that really huge advantage in the mid game, but they're just going to grind you out in the late game with kind of superior macro. So we'll have to see. In, you know, in ZVP, there's just so much Zerg can do, so many tricks up their sleeves, and it's really kind of a defining matchup for Protosses in general. Like, they have to have good Protoss versus Zerg to succeed really as players. So let's see if Sneazel is up to scratch as we wait for the game to get underway.
Well,
so
let's talk about something else for now while we wait for the game. I see you've got another BSL apparel on. You got the sweatshirt. What do you think about the BSL product? I mean, it looks pretty slick, I'll be honest.
I know. I've just been sporting them all weekend, guys. The first day, Friday, was the BSL logo one. Yesterday, the Bombastic Starleague one. And now my hoodie was not the most professional thing to wear on a cast, but, you know, it is swag, and it is BSL merch. So, you know, again, we got to talk about this thing right here. That's the goal, $4,000 for BSL12. We had met that last season to make BSL11 happen. Of course, you can see down here that we're run by community support. Of course, Esport Fund with a huge thanks to them for being kind of a contributor for a really long time and supporting StarCraft, not just in the non-Korean scene, but also in the Korean scene. So absolutely amazing. But the point that I'm trying to make is, guys, you don't have to necessarily donate. You don't have to necessarily go on to the Patreon. You can also just buy shirts and hoodies and your favorite Nyoken socks.
Yeah, if you're a boomer like me, you can buy those socks and then show them off at the office. You know, before I came to Korea, I did work at an office, and I was a computer programmer, and that's, you know, they usually have dress codes where you can't wear anything crazy, but the one thing you can get away with is stylish socks. So I would recommend the stylish socks if you're thinking about supporting BSL. Definitely show them off at work. Maybe get some people asking like, hey, where'd you get those socks? Where can I find them? And then maybe get them tuned into BSL.
Yeah, and then you can go into the rant. This is BSL. It stands for Bombastic Starleague. Oh, what's bombastic? Who cares? Shut your mouth. It's a StarCraft League. What are you talking about? What do you mean what's bombastic? I'll tell you about StarCraft. It's this game. It's like chess, but like in real time. And there's like alien armies and the humans, and they fight, and it's really cool, man. Let me show you about it. And then you tell them, and you bring them home after work, and you're like, hey, here's my computer. And you start, wait, no, that's more like school, elementary school. But
and then you link them Gypsy 93 stream, so they can get really hyped, man. I know how hyped you get on your streams. And you know what my favorite part about your rant right there is that you mentioned Terran and Zerg being super cool and completely glossed over Protoss.
No, what are you talking? No, you're projecting. I said aliens, okay, and humans.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you can literally just tell people like, oh, what's StarCraft? You're like, well, it's basically Alien versus Predator.
It is. Well, let me say this. If anybody ever went up to me and said, what's StarCraft? I'm done with it. Like, how did you not know what StarCraft is?
Okay, this is a good segue. Now, you ready? Now, have you seen the Alien movies?
I think I saw Alien 1, and then I saw Predator, and I saw Alien versus Predator.
Damn, that's already better than me, dude.
And maybe I can't remember. Was that Alien versus Predator? I don't know. I feel like I saw two? I feel like I saw one of the recent Predators. Recent being like 6 years ago. Not
the
like
recent
super old.
Well, maybe there was. Okay, well, looks like Zeros has had enough of our talk here. The game is. Well, game is ready. Clips is going to be the map. Michael versus Sneazel. Let's go.
Right in the top right, one of our NA players looking to make a splash in his first appearance in BSL. It is Michael.
And another player looking to make a big cannonball into the pool instead. It is Sneazel. And the blue Protoss, of course. Nyoken, let me tell you, like, what is your go-to... Let me ask you, rather. What's your go-to move off the diving board?
Off the diving board?
Yeah.
A belly flop, probably, because I'd try to dive, and it would just be a complete fail and just belly flop.
Yeah, well, mine is the 1080 double triple somersault slam bonanza.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's quite athletic.
Well, we're getting FP view of Sneasel right here. Pylon went down and the probe is continuing to stay at the natural. So this may be a gateway expand. He's going to bring it to Michael potentially. And this will be a mix-up from what we've seen from previous games. Look like there's a bit of lag, so Michael... Okay, so we're going to, I guess... We're going to stop the FP view because I guess that's causing a little bit of lag. I'm looking at the turn rate. Turn rate 20 high. I mean, that's not too bad, but we'll see if this resolves the issue. I guess we are going to start any moment now. Yep, there we go. And I guess we're going to see the gateway expand from Sneasel coming. Well, or not.
Well, we'll see here. Yeah, we'll see here. I mean, some technical issues. You know, I was reading in the chat, people were saying how a lot of people in the chat seem to be familiar with Sneasel and Michael, obviously, and kind of because they're these old school players. And you know, it looks like Sneasel and Michael kind of have a pretty, you know, just from how they're talking to each other, they seem pretty familiar with themselves. So perhaps they have some history that we don't know much by. What am I even saying? Anyway, point is, we're back in the game. It isn't paused. And Naokin is taking a sip of water here, so I have to kind of cover real quick for him. Now he's laughing at me. And Zerg is going to go for that overpool, whereas Protoss is getting that gateway up.
Yep, so nothing abnormal right now. No Forge expand from Sneasel, which is what we saw Tech and both Quark go for yesterday. So he's going to put some pressure onto Michael. And, you know, it's when you're a cheesing player, it's a bit different when the opposing player is also putting pressure back onto you. So we'll see how Michael can respond to the gateway pressure, since it is pretty standard these days. I imagine he has tons and tons of practice versus it. Now, here's a little difference compared to yesterday. Remember yesterday, I forget which player it was, but it was Gateway Expand Nexus before Forge. So I guess Sneasel is respecting the potential of Michael's lane, because he's going to go for the Forge before the Nexus and make sure that nothing gets into his main.
Yeah, that's totally right, Naokin. And we'll have to see. The Lings are out here. Michael is going to double expand. Now, generally against non-gas opening, you would want to get your Nexus down before the Forge. So 20 Nexus here from Protoss is good. And the Forge should be coming down anytime now. But the problem is, actually, Michael does see that the Zealot's pushed out, and he is going to run by a couple of Lings here into the main base. It is only 2 Lings so far, so not an overwhelming amount of Lings.
Oh, no.
And he does have 6 Lings here to defend against the Zealot and the Probe, but these 2 Lings can do a lot of damage. Every probe here matters. And if Michael kills off 1 or 2 probes, he will be in a very, very good spot. There goes 1. Now, every probe past this one is going to be huge. I mean, you can afford to lose 1, but let's start losing 2 or 3. It's really, really bad. And all this mining time loss also is not ideal. But Sneasel is dealing with this pretty well. You can see at his natural. Ooh, that probe is going to also go down. So Michael in a really good spot. Sneasel is dealing decently well with this. See out his natural, he does have the wall completed. He is putting some pressure onto Michael's 3rd hatchery, and he is getting his gas. So his build isn't too offset, but losing the 2 probes early on like that hurts.
I think this might be a Lingo win, because Michael's not mining gas anymore. He's going to deal with the Zealot at the top. He realizes that because... did these Lings get in? But I was going to say, because Sneasel's taking a lot of time dealing with these couple Lings, he's not really building up his Zealot count. He's not building that many cannons. He could just flood the gate and bust it down, or the Forge, and then get into the main easily, but it looks like that's not what's going to happen. It seems that Michael has started to transition into drones. The Overlords did spot the other Zealot moving out into the center of the map. Speed still, okay, speed has kicked in, so that makes this even more annoying. We know that he's already picked off what seems to be 2 probes. If he can get 3 or 4, that's a ton of damage. That's catastrophic damage, especially since Zerg already has 3 bases up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, every probe is so crucial, man, and Michael is doing a great job to keep these Zerglings alive. It's really APM taxing, but it looks like he is kind of still... Ooh, another probe goes down, and if another one goes down... I mean, these Zerglings are doing game-ending damage almost. It's really just... You don't want to be in this situation as Protoss. You can see behind this. Michael, though, he hasn't been droning. He kind of has all these AFK Lings in his main, which aren't drones, so he's very, very low eco, and he has been supply blocked for a while on 27, so even though he is killing a lot of probes, his build is not progressing as it should be, and really, like you said, Nyokin, it looks like this is going to be a very aggressive follow-up.
This single pylon at the top of his mineral line has ruined the game for Sneazel. The Zealot cannot go from the bottom to the top side of the map like the Lings are doing. So every single time the Lings just rotate around this nexus, the Zealot can't do anything. He just goes from one end to the other. Oh, he catches one. That's a bit of a misstep there. But he's killed like 7 or 8 probes at this point. He's trying to find another one. Look at the Zealots just sitting at the bottom, not being able to deal with these Lings or with that Ling. Looks like there's a few more Zealots going into the third base and the natural. AFK Zealot. Meanwhile, the main gas is getting shut down completely by this one Ling. This is horrible amounts of damage.
It's killing so many probes. 6 probes in total. Finally taking some damage. Oh my god. 7 probes on that Zergling. And meanwhile, this push from Sneazel totally slapped down. And again, Michael, he did have so many Lings, but he has droned up finally after essentially correcting his supply block. And now, I mean, losing close to, what, 10 probes as Protoss? I mean, it's kind of amazing that he's still in the game, but not for long. It looks like he only has 1 cannon at his front and 3 Zealots. So this is going to fall very quickly, even to just this force. If those Hydralisks have range upgrade, he can just bust this down. Here come the Lings.
Oh.
Are they going to run by? No, he's just going to kill the Zealots first, and then he's going to dive in on top of these cannons. So very disciplined from Michael, but, you know, Sneazel can still pull probes. The one Corsair is going to try to kill the Overlord, but it does get fended off by the Hydralisks. And, oh my god, just every chaos all over the place. Some Corsairs here at Michael's natural killing Overlords. The Zealot does get 2 Hydralisks. You don't see that every day. And now, I mean, this chaos is kind of giving Sneazel some time to get more cannons up. Finally, the second cannon there warps in, and I feel like Michael missed an opportunity. He definitely could have probably ended the game there. If the Lings kind of ran past and targeted the cannon, he could have at least picked off a lot more probes that Sneazel's is natural. But, oh, these Corsairs flying over the Hydralisks. One does go down. The thing is, they have killed a couple of Overlords, and now finally Sneazel is going up to 3 gate, maybe 4 gate soon, but it is really late.
Yeah, I thought for sure that Hydra attack was going to end the game, but he does knock down the Forge, and now it looks like the Gateway's next, and that's going to open up the floodgates. More and more Hydras are streaming across the map. He still has a lot of Lings alive to soak up some of those cannon hits. Really not that many Zealots left over because he just lost a lot of them at the Nat and third base. That is so many Hydras, and because the Forge got picked off, he hasn't been able to spam that many. Maybe 4 is more than enough to keep Michael at bay. Behind this, a decent drone cycle coming in at the natural. Looks like Michael is going to try and transition. Oh no, he's just going to go for the kill first. Cannon is going to fall. Second cannon. No, it is going to stand. Zealot and DT are going to keep the Hydras back. You can see that the threat of the Hydras force probes off the line, and he loses another 4 or 5 probes there.
Yeah, and honestly, Michael has had just such a good game going for himself, but, you know, some hiccups in his own build order kind of keeping him back. I feel like, you know, Sneazel is getting to play this game out a bit longer than he really should have. Though, obviously, he's not in a good position at all. And, you know, Michael does have really good saturation. He is missing that 6th hatchery, and the Spire only now is going to be completing. Does have quite a lot of gas banked, so one would suspect that maybe mutas are going to be coming on the way.
Yeah, this is going to be a muta switch. He knows that he's forced a lot of resources into those cannons, into those zealots, just to not die to Hydras. That means that the anti-air is probably going to be lacking. If anything, he's been prioritizing Templars, which are not exactly the greatest versus Mutalisks. You can see a Templar bit gets exposed and instantly sniped. A returning Storm hits a couple of the Hydras, and now Sneazel is going to try and put some pressure back out onto Michael. But look at all of that gas get spent. This is going to be a muta switch coming in.
Yeah, and of course the 3rd gas at the Zerg 3rd base is indicative of that too. This Archon's going to get sniped. Michael kind of preparing his Mutalisk switch almost. You know, it is a bit telegraphing it, but obviously Zergs would want to snipe that Archon regardless. Of course, Archons with their whole, you know, the shields take full damage from everything, so they do go down quite fast when focused down. And that is a lot of Mutalisks, around 9 Mutalisks popping out, probably more on the way. And, you know, Sneazel does not have Corsairs, he does not have a Dark Archon, he does have Storm though, so maybe if he lands some 6 Storms, he could deal with these Mutalisks, but looks like Michael does not want to harass. He's just going to go straight for the Hydra, or for the High Templar rather. Kills both. No more Storm for the Protoss, and you can see the Zerg units now rallying in to deal the death blow. A couple more Templar do spawn, but I mean, they have no energy, and now Michael is going for the mineral line.
Yep, and there's no cannons there, no stairs. You can see Sneazel has already decided he's got to give up that base, so he's just going to go for an instant counterattack. But Michael's been macroing like a crazy man. Even the Hydras can fend off the attack, and that's just going to be GG coming out from Sneazel. Wow.
Yeah, Michael just cruising to a win there. Sneazel looked a bit shaky that game from the first run by with the Zerglings, and just lost basically 10 probes to just like 4 Zerglings, really. I mean, it was the 2 initial Zerglings and 2 more joined in. And yeah, like, can't have that happen in Protoss first Zerg.
Yeah, the pylon blocked his own zealot out, and then there was just no answer to the Lings. Surprisingly, Sneazel kept up in supply. It was like 70 to 70 at one point. Of course, Protoss should be ahead at that point, but it wasn't like he was behind in supply. So he at least did a good job to try and salvage the game. But when you lose 7 or 8 probes like that, you know, most of the time it's just unrecoverable. And I really liked how Michael played. He built a bunch of Hydras, forced cannons, which means that, of course, the Protoss player is focusing on just not dying to Hydras, and then the muta switch comes in and just seals the deal. So really nicely done from Michael, and that's going to set us up for a winners match between Tech and Michael to see who they move, to see who moves on.
Yeah, Tech versus Michael, Battle of the Americas, North versus South. Now, what do you expect from this match? I mean, Tech looks so solid against trutaCz, but Michael did have some of these aggressive tendencies early on. It's kind of surprising to me. I thought for a second, after we saw kind of all those links stationed at his natural and his third, thought he might have went in for an aggressive follow-up with the Hydralisks, and he did get the Hydra Den. He did not go into lair quickly, but instead he turned it into a macro game. What do you think we're going to see here against Tech, though? Maybe is he going to try and go for something more aggressive, or do you think Tech is going to have a special build prepared here? I'm guessing Tech was well, yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, Tech did just beat trutaCz, so really, I was going to say maybe he was expecting to play against Sneazel, but I don't think he took that into consideration, whether it's Michael or Sneazel.
Well, sometimes the best course of action versus an aggressive player is to be aggressive yourself, because a lot of time aggressive players are used to just being in control of the flow of the game and not necessarily having to deal with harassment themselves. So maybe Tech will opt for that route. Let's get into our final matchup. It is going to be Michael versus Tech. The map is, of course, Sylphid, and this is going to decide who comes out first out of Group A. Right in the bottom left, we have our South American Protoss player. It is Tech.
And in the bottom right, the American Zerg. It is Michael.
Let me just say this quickly. I want to see the Ouya G3 gate because I don't think Michael's faced it. And as I was saying, sometimes the best course of action versus an aggressive player is to be aggressive yourself. I think this would be a good move. Of course, Tech is going to have to micro his heart out versus Michael from like a potential wing counterattack. But that's what I'm hoping we see. As I say that, it looks like Pylon is going down at the natural though. And with the probe being sent out, this probably is another Forge expand.
Yeah, definitely the probe scout is indicative of a Forge expand. You know, that is because you can delay the Forge a bit, whereas the gateway you really need it to go down on time. So most likely we'll see maybe an 11 Forge, even 12 Forge. This is gonna be an overpool here from Michael as the Overlord does pop from one of those eggs. Pool does go down. Again, overpool is kind of the go-to build in this matchup, and generally gateway expand is the go-to for Protoss in this matchup, but we do occasionally see some players that do favor the Forge play, and that's because it's a bit more solid in a sense. You know, gateway openings, a lot of the game can be kind of decided in those first couple minutes, in the first couple engagements between Zealots, Zerglings, drones, and probes. Whereas the Forge, Michael does kind of slip by that probe, though I think the Lingering Vision did spot it. Whereas the Forge opening can tend to be a bit more solid. The problem with opening Forge in this matchup is that it is very passive, and it's hard to get any scouting done outside of the initial probe scout. The only other scout you get afterwards is the Corsair, whereas when you open with a gateway, the pressuring Zealots do keep the Zerg honest. So especially against a player like Michael, it is kind of scary to give him that much space in the early game.
Yeah, it is always a conundrum when you're playing passive versus somebody that's very sneaky. Now, this is going to be a deviation from all the Zerg versus Protoss games we've seen so far in the BSL, because that's going to be what I would say is the standard gas timing. It's 2:45 as opposed to what we saw in other games, which was, I think, like a 3-minute gas. I don't see the third hatch placed anywhere. More than likely, mid-right is going to be where that third hatch goes down. Yep, there it goes. Now back in Tech side of the map, he is just getting his gas up and running, gateway coming down, so everything looks very standard.
Yeah, it is very standard, though. This probe is still alive, though, so Tech is doing a really good job in keeping it alive. And really, the longer it lives, especially after this gas starts getting mined, the more valuable information Protoss has. You know, if he ever sees a lair or if he sees a Hydra Den, that's all he needs to know to kind of adjust his build order accordingly. Though I think the probe does go down. Yeah, it finally did die, and you can see that only after Michael kills the probe does he start his lair. So again, Tech a bit in the dark, and it doesn't look like he's going to try and re-scout. He did start his cybernetics core, so yeah, there you go, second cannon coming. And a big decision Protoss has to make at this point is, do I make a third cannon or not? And every cannon counts. I mean, 2 cannons are pretty much standard. 1 cannon is being extremely greedy. 3 is being safe, you know, and sometimes you need even more than that if the Zerg commits to Hydra play. But generally, the Hydralist count does not get up to a significant amount until basically the Corsair timing comes around, so you can rely on that Corsair to scout, to know if you need to go up to more than 3 cannons. I do like this play here from Tech. He is getting the Stargate, of course. That is going to be his follow-up scout. And it is definitely good tempo here onto the Zerg player because the lair hasn't even finished. So this Corsair is going to have a lot of time to pick off Overlords before the Spire comes online.
Yep, Spire has come down, and I like what Michael did with his Lings in the beginning is he made 6 as opposed to what a lot of Zerg players do, which is 2. But I think that's because he didn't get to scout at all, didn't really know what Tech was doing, so he didn't want to underbuild Lings and be facing a Zealot pressure build. So that was a smart move by Michael, and he also eliminated the probe, so he could go for some type of sneaky build if he wanted to. Now that is a fast Citadel, but look at the net. There's no gas there, so this is going to be a heavy Zealot time.
Yeah, it is going to be a heavy Zealot timing without that second gas going. You can see the Forge is spinning, and the core is not. So without a doubt, Tech is going to get one Corsair out, and it's going to go around, confirm what the Zerg is doing, and he's going to follow it up with a nice 7-minute timing attack with Zealot speed and +1. It's going to be really strong, but honestly, Michael, with the lair and the Spire, does have the tools to deal with it. He can even make just 5 Mutalisks and then start making his his 5th hatchery. So we'll have to see, though. I think seeing the early Corsair is going to be a bit of a deterrent. Tech, again, going up to 2 Corsairs, so he did make an extra Corsair there, and that's fine because he did see the Spire, but now he's kind of calling Michael out. You know, he, despite seeing the lair and the Spire, he hasn't gotten the second gas. He hasn't started making more Corsairs. And I figures this is a Hydralisk opening. 1 Corsair does go down, though. So there's actually, Michael did get his second gas at his 3rd base. Yeah, he is making Mutalisks.
Yeah, so a sneaky move for Michael to build it there because Tech did not scout that, and then even poking in with that Zerg, he ends up losing one. I'm not sure if he even saw the extractor. Yeah, I don't think he did because he's not building any more Zergs right now. It's only 4 Mutalisks, so the Zealots really don't care that much at all. Oh, well, maybe they do because Tech is going to turn around. Now the Mutas have reached 5, and because he's picked off one of the Zergs, this might be danger zone for Tech. He needs to scramble and build more cannons, needs to get up more Zergs. Behind this, we know that Michael is just powering because he put down a Hydrogen. He's got Evolution Chamber, and this is another great opener for Michael.
Yeah, definitely a really good opener, and looks like Tech, his timing attack got completely stuffed by this Tech choice from Michael. Now he comes in here, only 5 Mutalisks, though that's not going to be enough for attacking the cannon. And I don't like this from Tech, though. Like, he should have committed to this Zealot attack. 5 Mutalisks do not necessarily kill Zealots fast, and with the overwhelming amount of Zealots that he would have had in the early stage here, he could have put on some pressure, but instead he did elect to play passively, and now getting his second gas. I don't know, this is a pretty tough spot to be in as Protoss because really it's just not ideal. When you're going this Zealot push, you kind of expect it to do some damage, and generally, like, the Zerg barely reacts in time with the Mutalisks. Like, they kind of pop out as the Zealots are running in. It's not like they're already out and harassing you, and then you have to pull your Zealots back. So really, Tech not in the best situation here, and now he's losing probes to these Mutalisks.
Well, I feel like Tech is pretty much responding perfectly because he's not overbuilding Zergs. We know that more Mutalisks are not being built. He does morph an Archon, though, so I guess he is potentially worried about more Mutas behind this. He does have double Forge, so he's going to have heavy upgrades coming in pretty soon. The Mutas didn't really do that much damage. They got like 3 probe kills maybe, and Tech did keep the majority of his Zealots alive. I don't even think he lost a single one. So overall, it seems like it's an okay position for Tech, but if you look at the supplies, 80 to 80, not ideal for Protoss, I guess, but he does have 6, 7, 8 gates in his main, so it should shoot up pretty soon.
Yeah, it takes a while for Protoss to...
Man, he's mining. That is
yeah, he has been mining. Those probes are AFK, and he notices it, so does fix that mistake. The problem is that this Nat gas was so late. He does not have the gas bank that usually a Protoss has. So he's going to be limited on the number of Templars he has. He's going to be limited on his Dragoon count. And again, the thing is, Nyokin, like, sure, it's nice to not overmake Corsairs because the Zerg isn't overmaking Mutalisks, but Zerg only needs 5 Mutas to be really annoying, and one Corsair doesn't cut it. Like, as Protoss, you have to ensure that Zerg cannot just go Mutalisks. So really, Michael is benefiting on so many levels here against Tech. Tech is in such a bad spot, dude. It's going to be really hard for him to get anything done now. Of course, he can still sit back and wait for his upgrades to finish. He is on double forge, which is important to note. He does have 1-0, so he's going to be going up to 2-1. And he does have 6 gate. He's close to 130 supply, but does not yet have Dragoon range or Dragoons mixed into his composition. The upside, though, is Michael doesn't seem like he's transitioning into Lurkers just yet, and that's good for Tech because I think in order to afford everything that he's doing, as these Mutalisks are actually killing a lot of Templar, you gotta remember, because Tech had that slow second gas, he's actually skipping his robotics here, so he wouldn't have any observers ready for Lurkers if they did come.
Well, these Mutas are wreaking havoc, getting a couple of Templars, forcing out another Archon. You can see why Sylphid, me and Gypsy were talking about the natural being a disaster. There was no answer to the Mutalisk just sitting there. Now, these Hydras have +1. Zealots do not have armor upgrade, but that is so many Zealots that the Hydras do have to be careful. A slight supply lead for Tech, but almost no AoE. A single Templar is the only AoE in that comp. Sure, a little bit of splash from the Archons, but not the greatest unit versus Hydras. Now, I do see that armor did complete. I'm guessing that means +2 weapon should be completing pretty soon. And it looks like Michael wants to attack, but this doesn't seem like that many Hydras, and a little bit of a mistake there. A few of the Hydras were on move command.
Thing is, Michael is kind of just staying on this Hydra's composition, which can be really strong, but it doesn't seem like he has that overwhelming production, nor does he have the Mutalisks in conjunction to really support them, and there are no Lurkers, so really Tech is getting away with murder, having delayed that robotics for so long, and now he has a pretty decent composition, all Zealots, doesn't even have Dragoons really, and you know, I mean, Dragoons are good versus all Zerg compositions, but especially because there are no Lurkers, these Zealots are not going to go punished just yet, and he does pick off the Lurkers morphing in the middle of the map. Kind of questionable decision there by Michael, and you know, honestly, this push from Tech, even though they're even on supply, the thing is, Hydralisks are not, I mean, they're very cost efficient, but if the storms land, Protoss can completely ravage the Zerg army, and still, look, there's absolutely no Dragoons, so if these Lurkers do manage to morph in time, what's Tech gonna do?
Yeah, we were talking about how Ugox needed to stop building those goons. Well, there's a different situation here. Tech needs to get some goons because this army is almost pure Zealot at this point. I already saw a Lurker landmine over on the right side of the map. If they run through that, they will get eviscerated. It looks like a couple Overlords are sitting on the middle of the map, and look, they're not going to get taken down just yet. Michael is posturing like he wants to go for a backstab, so Tech is a little bit worried about that. I think the Lurkers have started to move into position. I see them. Yeah, there they are. They are moving to try and set up on top of these Zealots. 150 or 160 supply to 150 from Tech. Looks like a couple Lurkers have been spotted, but again, I don't see observers anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the robotics was late and he still doesn't have observers. Definitely does have, like, he should have the tech already. Yeah, the observatory is done. He has to wait for observers to come out. But at this point, I mean, just look at his composition. There's no Dragoons. Again, remember, we touched upon this in the game that Ugox played against Dragon. Protoss, what they're doing in the early mid-game is trying to basically control the game into a point where they have a nice Dragoon ball going, because that Dragoon composition is what really kicks through or punches through the Zerg army in the mid game. And with mass Zealots, I mean, yeah, they can chase and engage onto these Hydralisks, but once Lurkers are added to the equation, Zealots get completely demolished. So I'm really not liking this position for Protoss. He is going to take a fight in the middle of the map here. The Zealots do have a lot of priority here onto the Hydralisks. This is about as good as it gets for Protoss because the Lurkers are coming in so late and they're going to burrow, but like without any support, so they're all going to die. The Storms are perfect from Tech. This is a terrible fight from Zerg, but Michael just has so much more stuff. It doesn't matter how he takes these fights.
Yeah, the Zealots got right on top of the Hydras. I thought it was going to go much better for him, but you just saw like 20 supply get wiped out in an instant. It was even before the fight. Then there was 30 supply swing in favor of the Zerg, and now it's Michael looking to take a sizable lead in this game. He's got top, middle. The natural is going up. Meanwhile, he's already on 4 bases. He's taken that 3rd base between his nat and the mid-right base. He's got 2-1 upgrades. He's got triple evolution chamber. He even has hive. So that was probably the weakest point in the game that the Zerg army is going to be, and he still just overwhelmed the Protoss army.
Yeah, I mean, his advantage from the early game is just so huge. And it's not just that, really. It's mostly Tech's composition was not very good at all. Like, Zealots just are not cost efficient in this mid-game situation. And now Michael is just going to press the issue. Again, he does have a 30 supply lead, which is massive in this matchup. The Storms are nice from Tech. He has had good Storms all game, but he just does not have enough units to grind the Zerg down. And every time Protoss takes these trades, it's terrible for them, because Protoss really in this matchup, they need to win a lot of battles in succession. They need to continue being cost efficient. And whenever Zerg just takes a fight and kills off or shaves off a significant proportion of Protoss's army, that's a win for them. And Michael, again, look at the mini maps, just red everywhere. He is on 5 bases now, probably around 8 hatcheries or something. And Protoss is only on 3. You'd expect Tech to try and take a 4th base at this point. His main is probably getting close to mined out. It is really hard for Protoss to kind of, get out of this hole.
Yeah, it's not really 3 bases. It's going to be basically 1.5 bases, because main's going to be mined out. Wow, he already has Defilers and Darkform, and that's just a pure goon army, basically. So no counter to Lings and Lurkers under Darkform. You can see him scrambling to escape, but the Storm gets on top of his own units, and now I think Tech is on the brink of just being eliminated. Another Darkform on these cannons, I don't think would be... I don't think he really would have had any single answer. Tech has to get another base, because he's basically really not mining that effectively. It looks like a shuttle's going to the top side. I would guess that this is probably a DT drop. This can be one way that Protoss can try and get back into the game, start making it crazy, start denying bases. But yeah, you can see the main is basically dry. The nat is going to be similarly close to being mined out. And look at this. That's a full saturation at top right. So Michael is really killing it in the macro.
Yeah, Michael's playing extremely well. It's just so hard for Protoss to do anything right now. I mean, the economy is on Zerg's side. These shuttle drops are a nice way to go. He actually morphs in the lair just for that added HP to try and save this hatchery. And it is not going to go down, just barely. Oh, it does go down. Holy moly, Zealots are strong. But, in the grand scheme of things, that is a nice pickoff for Tech, and that is kind of the first step to recovery. But he's, again, just in such a hole. And now he has to deal with Hive Tech and Cracklings and just an onslaught of Zerg units.
Yeah, this is the point in the game where Zerg can just flood units. Those were great Storms, eliminating all of the Lings. But look at how fast those Zealots just end up dying. About 10 of them going down. The Lurkers is dealing so much damage. Now a 50 supply lead. And that was just round 1. Look at the follow-up attack. Just so much red streaming across the left side of the map. He even has an almost 2k bank. That probably exhausted almost all of the Storms. How do you stop this? The answer is you don't. And this is going to be Michael moving out of Group A in first place.
Yeah, you're right about that, Nyoke. And here comes the Zergling Flood. Just always so scary to see. And it is usually kind of the game-ending move in this matchup versus a Protoss that's behind. once Hive kicks in, once the economy kicks in, all the production kicks in for Zerg. If you're not maxed out as Protoss and getting into Reaver tech, really, it's just so hard to deal with non-stop cracklings, hydras, and so on. But yeah, this is going to be it. Tech is going to fight it out, though, and probably collect his thoughts. He is going to be waiting for basically the winner of trutaCz versus Ugox. Again, we're basically going to have, or sorry, Sneazel, I'm thinking of last group. But we are just going to have a kind of a PvZ bonanza group so far.
Yes, so far we haven't seen a single PvP or ZVZ, and that's going to be the trend. In our next matchup, it's going to be another PvZ, and then potentially we might have a PvP in the losers bracket, and there is the GG. So Michael, he makes it out, and people were talking about, well, people told me that he was kind of an aggressive player, kind of, cheesy, does a bunch of all-ins. Didn't look all in to me. That looked just like solid play.
Yeah, totally agreed with you there. Not surprising at all. And Michael just kind of outclassing his competition today, seems like. ZVP, of course, is kind of one of those matchups where, Zergs kind of rely on their ZVP to get through tournaments, to get through, their ladder and stuff. And unfortunately, the Protosses today have not been able to challenge Michael. Does make it out first in the group. Really sick result there for NA. But yeah, we will have to wait and see who is going to join him, because the rest of the crew is still kind of up in the air. trutaCz, Tech, and Sneazel. Of course, trutaCz is going to be playing against Sneazel, and coming up next. What do you think about that?
Well, I have two thoughts about this. Is, trutaCz last season didn't perform very well, and I think he took quite a break. So I don't know his current state, but it could be depressing to perform not very well in the previous season, and then to, in your first appearance, kind of just get run over. So I feel like it could really affect his mental state, but at the same time, because he lost his first game, and because this is a best-of-1 series, maybe he's in ultra serious mode, and going into this series, he's going to make sure 100% that nothing sneaky happens to him. So I'm hoping for the latter. I'm hoping that this is his time where he's like, okay, I got to do it. If I lose here, I'm out. So I'm going to go all or nothing, right? Like, I'm going to pull out all the stops. I'm going to make sure that no potential cannon rush can kill me. No shenanigans in the center of the map. Like, I'm really hoping that trutaCz shows his all in this particular match.
Yeah, I mean, trutaCz is going to be looking for redemption, of course, losing the Tech the first game. The Prince of BSL, of course, you can see in BSL seasons 1, 2, 6, and 7, has won them all. BSL season 5 was third place, and BSL season 10, kind of his lowest performance there. Remember, he was in that sick group of death. Oya, Siki, Gornich, trutaCz, and didn't make it out of that one to get into kind of the round of 8. But yeah, looking for redemption here this time around. Sneazel needs to get his mojo back, though, because that first game against Michael is quite brutal.
Yeah, it could have been nerfed because we didn't really get to see what Sneazel had for us, because he kind of fell apart to just the initial links. Also, the zealot pressure he did got denied every single time. So we really don't know what his game plan is, other than, of course, he's going to be building some zealots. He didn't really show us anything. Michael kind of just ended it very quickly. So I hope that he also can perform a little bit better in his next series. The map is going to be Polyploid, and that's definitely one of the maps that these players have practiced heavily on. So we are ready to get into our losers match. So let's do it. Let's see if Sneazel can eliminate one of our BSL champions in trutaCz. Oh, Mad Cow, thank you for the massive donation. We really appreciate all the support you guys are showing us. We've already reached half of our goal to get to BSL12, so thank you so much for your donation.
Yeah, massive thanks, dude.
In the top right, we have our green Protoss from Poland. It is Sneazel.
In the bottom left, also from Poland, our Peach Zerg, it is trutaCz.
And I just realized that now that you said also from Poland. Now these players might have history, so that's another aspect of this, that not only do we not know Sneazel, we don't know if there's mind games going on here. Like they could have potentially a lot of history. Zero was pointing out to us that Sneazel actually played in one of the early BSL, so even though he's new to us now, he's apparently, you know, one of the initial players of the BSL in the early stages, you know, BSL1, BSL2 and stuff.
Yep, he is definitely kind of an old new school player, and established for sure. So we'll have to see. Sneazel, this is his first time back into kind of the 2021 StarCraft. So far it's been rough for him, the game versus Michael not going quite how he expected it to go, or at least wanted it to go. But you know, games like that can help a player kind of, it's like a kick in the back, like, okay, you gotta just tighten up your build, tighten up your execution, don't let that happen again. So we'll have to see here. It is going to be cross spawn. Sneazel is not deterred from opening with a gateway though. That's good to see from a confidence perspective. trutaCz just now putting down the hatchery, which Sneazel does see. This is the timing for an overpull basically. So very standard opening so far. Of course, the matchup doesn't really branch out until a bit later.
We do see the first Zealot coming out now. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts about cross spawns PvZ? Because I'm kind of on the fence between two things, but I'd like to hear your opinion first. Like, is it good for Protoss? Is it bad for Protoss? What's one of the advantages or disadvantages of this cross spawn for him?
Well, I actually think this is pretty good for Protoss in a sense because, well, of course, like, in general, I think it's good for Protoss because the longer the rush distance, the harder it is for Zerg to just basically punish you. And when you have this much map to work with, it's easier to kind of run Zealots around and keep them hidden. And in general, I mean, I feel like it's pretty nice for Protoss, to be completely honest with you. But I don't think there's, I think it's probably player specific. I think it's probably a preference that a player might have, because if you're a Zerg, you could look at cross spawns and say the same thing. Look, I'd rather have more space. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking also, is that even though it's cross spawn and you're thinking, well, okay, the Zealot doesn't get there as fast, well, you're in the darkness more often than not, and the Zealot will go unscouted, so that always is a potential that you don't account for one Zealot hidden somewhere out on the map and potentially could get into a drone line. So that's what I do like about the cross spawns. As you also pointed out, it means that Zerg can't pressure you as fast. Now that third pylon, initially when I saw it, I thought, wow, this might just be like 3 gates or 4 gates going down in the main, and he just wants to go straight into gateway or straight into Zealot Man because he didn't have any gas. But now that I see that the gas has come up, it looks like it is just going to be a standard opener from Sneazel.
Yeah, it looks like it. And trutaCz is dealing pretty well with this one Zealot. He does have... No, he does not have link speed, I was going to say. So really stuffing the very early Zealot well enough. But there are more Zealots coming out onto the map. And again, they can just kind of hide all over the place. It is really annoying to deal with. trutaCz does seem to have gone for the lair. Oh, he does have link speed, so this is quite good for him. And he does have lair coming with a lot of gas banking up. So we'll have to see if he's going to go for that quick Spire into Mutalisks. These Lings, though, will intercept the Zealots. It is 3 Zealots against 10, or 8 Lings, rather. Now 10, so... And now 12. These Lings are going to make short work of these Zealots, but Sneazel does force these larvae into Lings, basically. They're not drones. He does get some scouting intel. He sees its speed. There are no Hydras just yet. But losing those 3 Zealots like that in kind of a cost-inefficient way does hurt quite a bit. And you can see at his natural, he only has 1 cannon. He only has 1 Zealot left. There's a massive gap to the northern side of his wall. It looks like trutaCz, instead of... Okay, no, he does have 3 Zealots. trutaCz, instead of trying to go for a counterattack, he does spread his Lings out to try and catch more Zealots. And here's the thing about cross spawns, it's a bit harder for Zerg to get an Overlord at the natural of the Protoss. So again, vision is a bit reduced, but despite that, trutaCz has not taken any damage from this early harassment, and he's getting his tech on time. So Zerg is feeling quite confident, or comfortable rather, in this situation.
Well, you know what I noticed is that there is no pink dot in Sneazel's base. And because of that, he's gone straight Citadel, and he also has his cybernetic spinning. So this looks like it's going to be some type of potentially 5-gate goon timing. I think we saw that earlier today, didn't we? We saw Ugox go for a lot of goons in the early stages, and that looks like it's going to be a similar build. And trutaCz, look at the lack of vision. He didn't even poke in at all to check the main. He's just assuming, I guess, that this is Sair. But now it's so far into the game, he should have seen a Sair by now. So maybe he suspects that this is going to be a Citadel Speed Zealot timing. I'm not too sure exactly what he's thinking.
Well, the Corsair would definitely be out by now. So I believe trutaCz probably notices the absence of it. But even then, it's quite hard to tell what's going on. I mean, you definitely wouldn't expect this from the Protoss player, but it is kind of a weird build here from Sneazel. We'll have to see. You know, the nice thing about this type of timing from Protoss is that, and the reason why kind of Dragoon Zealot can work without like kind of Templar support, is that it actually hits at a timing where the Zerg isn't fully droned up and isn't necessarily on 6 hatcheries. So, you know, your units actually trade quite well against the fewer count, the lesser count of Hydralisks. So look, you can see. The third, not too many drones. I mean, he has 1 drone per mineral patch, which is really good. But like the natural also kind of lacking a bit, and the 6th hatchery quite just isn't there yet. Even the main is a bit light on saturation. So Zerg has to defend this on very low econ, and not all of the production. The 6th hatchery does finish though, so it's all down to how well these Dragoons can trade. But giving up this high ground already is not a good sign.
Well, you can see that speed is also done, and trutaCz had already built a lot of Zealots. I'm looking at the timing of this push, 8 minutes. You know, a lot of Zealot timings come at around 7:30, so I'm not too sure if this is extremely fast or if this is just a normal build. It looks like we may have another scenario where the goons and Zealots just get surrounded by an overwhelming amount of Hydras and Lings. Evolution Chamber was up, so +1 should be kicking in probably within the next minute or so, and you can see Sneazel's on the run, trying to escape to his high ground. He can trade effectively if he can get up there, but that is so many Hydras.
Yeah, and honestly, this timing here from Sneazel didn't quite do it, but the reinforcements, oh my god, that Zealot flank actually is beautiful, and now he gets a sick engagement on top of these Hydralisks. So that's going to be an extremely good trade for Protoss, and you can see that trutaCz is droning up, so he does have to retreat. This is kind of a dicey situation, but from the looks of it, Sneazel does not plan to attack just yet. He did just make a bunch of Templar robotics coming on line. You know, the scary part about how Sneazel is playing is that he's totally open to Mutalisks, and it's actually quite surprising to see trutaCz even have a lair, because he hasn't used it except for Overlord speed, and sometimes it is nice to get that early lair for the Overlord speed, even if you're going for something like Hydralisks, because it's a good response to DT play. But without that Spire, trutaCz cannot punish this play from Sneazel, And honestly, with 6 Templar and trutaCz, the thing is, he doesn't even have lurkers either, man. He doesn't have Mutalisks, he doesn't have lurkers. Sneazel has a bunch of gateway units with 6 Templar.
Oh,
This is going to be
Sneazel
really
might
scary.
just win. I think he might just win. Okay, so the Hydras have found the army and they are getting into position. If these Hydras weren't here and Protoss got onto the high ground, I think the game's over because there's a 30 supply lead, but there's 3 Templar here, so maybe he can just bulldoze. That's a great storm right there. Sure, he picks off the Templar, but it already got rid of its only storm.
No.
But now the Sim City is a little bit too much, and that is a lot of Hydras. This might be Sneazel overextending, but at the same time, the Hydras are
6
coming.
storm!
It's so many Hydras, but is there enough gateway unit? Supplies are 67 to 110. Sneazel needs to just keep reinforcing.
Yeah, he's actually just pushing through here. Looks like he's going to be able to do it, man. These Templar are paying... They're just doing so much damage, but looks like the Protoss forces are dwindling. That one storm went onto the drones. Oh, he found more drones going down. So even though Sneazel is going to lose his army there, he killed essentially the entire mining base of trutaCz. And behind this, I mean, he still has 6 gateway production. Look, the supply is still healthy for the Protoss player. So presumably, that was a really good trade there for Protoss. It did look dicey in some spots, but this is the problem trutaCz has. He does not have lurkers and he does not have Mutalisks. You need one or the other in conjunction with Hydralisks, not just Hydralisks themselves. So trutaCz desperately needs to get some tech online, or else he is going to eventually lose this game.
Oh my gosh, I thought that Archon was going to get picked off, and I think Sneazel might just end the game with this push. Look, he realizes how much damage he's done. He's double expanding. He's up almost 50 supply. If he was to take this fight right here, this is the entirety of trutaCz's army. He cannot lose these Templars, though. Oh, Sneazel, don't lose a Templar. He loses one of them, but still, his army is so strong. Zerg will trade as effective as possible. Looks like Sneazel's not feeling confident enough to push up there. trutaCz has done a really good job to resaturate that base quickly. Remember, he's on 6 hatches, so he can pump drones like a madman. That is a whiff of a storm, but that one is a little bit better, but still a 40 supply lead for Sneazel. He's taking top middle. I don't see the Nexus being put down just yet, but it looks like trutaCz is trying to take the mineral only. But really, I don't think he has enough to defend it. If Sneazel finds that base, he should be able to kill it. I think trutaCz realizes that he can't engage this army, so you can see that he's posturing like he wants to go for a backstab, maybe cut off some Templar reinforcement.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what the Zerg player needs to do with mass Hydras. Is you got to have a couple groups here and there, run around and try and pick off reinforcements, pick off Templar. But the problem is, if he ever tries to take a straight up fight with the Protoss players, he's going to get absolutely smashed. Now, trutaCz is playing phenomenally well right now. He did re-drone his 3rd base. Look at all these Hydras all over the place, being a huge nuisance. Getting one Templar, that Templar had 200 energy, man. Like, that was huge. These other Templars, oh, that's a shield battery. This isn't StarCraft 2. They don't repair buildings. This is a sick pick from trutaCz. And oh my god, he's just dissecting the Protoss alive with hit squads everywhere. But again, trutaCz is only on Hydralisk tech, so you know, if Sneazel stabilizes here and goes for oh my god, another Templar goes down. Sneazel stabilizes and attacks, maybe he has a chance, but the thing is, he is losing a lot of Templar, and because his 3rd base is not a gas base, it's not like it's easy to replace these Templar.
Yeah, he is losing Templars, but at the same time, trutaCz is committing a lot to make these moves. Like, he did deny the Nexus at top middle, but in return, lost like 8 Hydras, and I think only killed 1 Templar. And those Hydras also got blanketed by a storm, so they are softened up quite a bit. Look at the supply, still 50 supply lead for Sneazel. You can see it. I thought the Hydras may try and go for another backstab to top middle, but if Sneazel can get that base up and running, I think he's about to run away with this game. trutaCz still has so much gas. That means he hasn't been building lurkers at all. We don't even know if he has the upgrade. I think he's feeling the pressure that he can't even afford to get lurkers, and this looks like Sneazel wants to end this game. He has multiple Templars there. That's not that many Hydras. I think Sneazel might actually just push the victory right now.
I don't know about that, Nyokin. I mean, these Hydras do have +2 upgrades. There's a lot of Hydras all over the place, even from the flank. But these storms finally connecting, actually huge storms from Sneazel And will he be able to push through, though? The Hydralisks are coming from the north, the south, the east, the west, all over the place, surrounding the Protoss forces, and he will be able to grind them down, but you can see that, you know, trutaCz himself is paying the price down to 70 supply. That means basically what you see on the screen there, those Hydras are what he has left. He is getting a Queen's Nest and a second Evolution Chamber. That Queen's Nest is for Hive because presumably he wants to get that +3 range upgrade on the Hydralisks, but that's not going to be done for a really long time. Meanwhile, of course, Protoss does have the double forge going, and you know, that's something that's interesting about this matchup is that you know, Zerg, it takes quite a while for them to be able to access +3 attack, +3 armor, whereas Protoss can do it off of their Templar archives, which is why you always see Protoss with an upgrade advantage, really. But anyway, here comes more Hydras at 12 o'clock. They are going to kill these cannons. There's no defense here. So even though these Hydras are going to go down, they are going to kill the Nexus most likely. And if they kill the Nexus along with the probes, this is going to be worthwhile. And Sneazel recognizes that he cannot defend this base. He's going to go for a counterattack.
Yeah, but he's going to lose all of his probes there. So that's going to put him pretty much all... Okay, maybe he's not going to lose all of them, but he's going to lose a lot. He's going to lose the shuttle too. He's just going to go for a backstab or for a counterattack, but he's not counterattacking. You need to make a move, man. You can't just sit in the center of the map. That means that these Hydras are buying time. They can actually kill the base and turn around, and then he'll have a huge flank. So this was a huge misstep from Sneazel. That's a great storm right there. But because I've seen this before, what looked like was going to be a killing move a couple minutes ago ended up just being a denial. Oh, that's a whiff! And I think Sneazel's just falling apart.
Yeah, Nyoka, and you know, I kept saying, well, Zerg needs something more than Hydras. Doesn't look like it. You know, trutaCz went Super Saiyan, completely picking Sneazel apart. Despite being in a terrible position, he lost all his drones. He was on low supply. Somehow, he literally just channeled his energy, went, you know, screamed at the top of his lungs, like, oh, whatever, I'm not gonna do that. But, you know, went Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, and then you saw Hydralisks moving all over the place. Like I said, northeast, southwest, they're just coming in from everywhere. Hit squads here, hit squads there, killing all the Templar alive, denying all the bases. Then he had nice flanks ready for when the Protoss moved in. Just immaculate play there by trutaCz.
Yeah, trutaCz was on the ropes, and he did what he needed to do. He made it crazy, went for the backstabs. Unfortunately, Sneazel, he was being aggressive, but because he was being aggressive, he wasn't able to get situated at top middle. He never got his buildings up really in a great position. Sure, he had 3 cannons, but that's not enough to stop an overwhelming amount of Hydras. Also, the cannons were a little bit far from the ramp, so they don't even shell the cannons from high ground to low ground. So a bit unlucky there from Sneazel. He was in such a phenomenal position. I thought for sure he was going to eliminate trutaCz, yet trutaCz somehow, some way, brings it back. And now we're going to be going into a rematch between trutaCz and Tech.
Yeah, but before we get into that, we are going to go to a quick break, guys. So stay tuned for the conclusion to Group A.
we are back and we are wrapping up the Group A and the round of 24. This is going to be the last match of the entire round of 24. It is going to be between trutaCz and Tech. We already saw Tech knock down trutaCz into the losers bracket with a really slick build. So trutaCz looking for a bit of redemption. And of course, because it is best of one, there's only one chance for both of these players, and we may actually see trutaCz eliminated in the very first round.
Yeah, this is gonna be exciting here. You know, when you're a player like of trutaCz's caliber, I feel like if you lose to Tech that game one, you really want to play him again and show him what's up. So here's his chance. Here's his chance for revenge. But at the same time, you know, Tech kind of dealt really, like, I would say he just outplayed him in that first game. It was very, very solid how Tech played. And trutaCz just had a very tough game against Sneazel. So I don't know how trutaCz is feeling. You know, it could be either one of two ways. Like, either he's a bit nervous or he's like, okay, I'm finally warmed up, I'm feeling good. And trutaCz has only played ZVP today. So, well, actually Tech as well. I guess he's only played PvZ. So.
Yeah, I would be kind of nervous if I was trutaCz because first off, lost the first game versus Tech. And now we were on the brink of losing, but because of the phenomenal multipass and backstabs from trutaCz, he was able to bring it back. So you should feel confident that you're able to bring back an almost guaranteed lost game, but at the same time, you're somebody that you're expecting to make it out of this group in first place, and all of a sudden, he was close to being the first one eliminated, and I'm sure he's probably thinking about that. He wants to definitely uphold his reputation as somebody that not only qualifies for BSL, but somebody that can make it to the finals. Now, Tech, with the slick build, remember, he got the cancel on the hatchery, but he committed quite a bit to that. He built, what, 2 cannons and a pylon? Sure, trutaCz lost a lot, but he recovered quite nicely. So Tech, I don't think, had like a sizable lead in that game with that initial opener, but he managed to transition it into a victory for himself. So let's get into our final game. It is Polypoid. trutaCz on the brink of elimination. Potentially Tech might go 2-0 versus him in the round of 24. So in the top right, we have our pink Zerg player representing Poland. It is trutaCz.
And in the bottom left, in that sexy magenta, it is Tech from Chile. Up 1-0 so far versus trutaCz today. So we'll have to see if he can win once again. Where's trutaCz going to be able to even it out and get out of the group?
We got cross spawns again. I'm trying to think. I'm sitting here thinking, well, what was the opener for Tech on Sylphid? And it was Forge Expand. No, was it?
Yeah, it was Forge Expand.
Yeah, I think it was Forge Expand. So I'm wondering if that's what he's going to opt for here. Looks like this, well, this could be anything. But we have seen a lot of times that the players will go back into the main for one cycle of mining and go back to the natural for a gateway, and that's exactly what it is. Now, we haven't seen 12 hatch all day long, so I'm wondering if we might actually see it in this particular game.
Nope. Looks like it's going to be a pool, and yeah, surprised actually. For a second, I thought maybe Tech would have went for something like an early Nexus on this map. Polypoid is quite big, quite large. So if you go for like 11 Nexus, 11 Forge or something like that, you, even if the Zerg opens with Overpool, in many situations you will have time to get that cannon out. Especially if you're cross-spawn here with the longer rush distances. But Tech electing to not go for a risk here. He is going to open with the stable gateway first. Again, this is going to be cross spawns like you said, Nyokin. So trutaCz already just played this situation out. He's going to be feeling pretty comfortable.
You see that with the drone? He poked in a little farther to see that there's nothing there. He learned already that you are not going to get me with the probe. And it would have been so hilarious if he had done this on a 4-player map. So a nice adaptation from TrueTouch. Now the first Zealot is coming out. I am wondering how many Zealots he's going to build. We've seen a couple people build only 2 and then go into the Nexus. We've seen, 3 and potentially more. I always am curious on the gas timing from TrueTouch. It looks like, well, I think he's actually going to send a drone to another base. You can see that his mini-map just shifted to mid-right. There is that drone. It is going to be heading to mid-right, I think. Or maybe not. Yep, there it goes.
Yeah, but I think he spotted the Zealot, so he will get that gas going before the hatchery, which is generally the standard play. It's very, very rare that you see a Zerg player get their 3rd hatchery before gas. That's really delaying it, and it's quite risky, to be completely honest with you. You want that gas for speed, especially if things start going south, or if you're holding on really well against Gateway first, you can also go for that lair if you have really good trades against the Zealots. So 2 options here, really.
Oh, goodbye,
probe going down is huge.
Yeah, that is a massive pickoff now because it is cross-spawn. The Zealots, can go through. Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be cross-spawn, but the Zealot is hiding in the shadows, sitting at the 3rd base. TrueTouch doesn't know exactly where it is. I'm not too sure he's actually looking for it. It looks like he just wants to go for a counterattack. Tech did build 3 Zealots. He has 2 in position. It looks like a link tight wall. He's got his forge completing. 3rd Zealot is out. So that's a decent amount of Zealots out already for Tech. Gas is going down. Meanwhile, TrueTouch has spent 100 gas. Oh, no, he hasn't. He just now got 100 gas. So we'll see where that's going to go. We don't see lair anywhere just yet. There it is in the main, so it is to be lair.
This is nice here from TrueTouch, putting on a lot of pressure before the cannon finishes. Tech, of course, cannot just sally out his Zealots because this might be some crazy mass link coming in. Plus, Tech doesn't necessarily, because this probe died so fast, he doesn't necessarily know if there's a layer of speed behind this. But he does wait. Actually, it looks like, yeah, the Zealot, as Zero is pointing out, the Zealot that was out on the map did make it into Tech's main base. Or rather, TrueTouch's main base, so he does know that Lair Tech is coming.
Oh, pretty fast gas at the natural for Tech, so he's going to be banking that gas quite heavily. We'll see where he wants to put it into. I'm sure the Stargate is going to be coming pretty soon. Again, I'm noticing a lack of pink Overlords into Tech's main. Just like in the Sneazel game, the Overlord has turned around quite quickly, and now TrueTouch has to make a deduction on what exactly Tech is doing. So because it has not poked in, Citadel could be going down quite quickly. We may even see something crazy like double Stargate. I doubt that, knowing Tech, but I am a bit surprised that he didn't even poke at all with the Overlord.
Yeah, well, I think he just wants to save the Overlord. Or the thing is, as in ZVP, right? Like, especially if in your head you're thinking, okay, this guy's most likely going Corsairs, and I'm going for my Spire. Running the Overlord away early is pretty nice because it prevents it from getting sniped by the Corsairs that much more. And honestly, if you lose no Overlords to the early Corsairs, that's a really nice spot to be in as Zerg. So I can see why he did pull back early. I think he has a solid read here, just from looking at Tech's front. And whether or not he's going Stargate or Citadel is not really going to change his game plan, apparently. So, though the one thing is, this whole game, looks like TrueTouch has not confirmed the natural from the Protoss player. So he could have been swindled by some type of Oya/Quark mid-gate, do-gate kind of play, but obviously that didn't occur. That's really the only hole in TrueTouch's intel here. And now Corsair is coming out.
Yep, Sarah is going to come in here and see that Hydras are being made. I didn't see a Spire. Did you see a Spire anywhere?
Nope.
So this is just going to be a lot of Hydralists. And last game we saw 0 Lurkers. So I imagine that this is just going to be for speed overlords. So Tech realizes that instantly, puts down his Templar Archive. I think he needs to start putting down a lot of gateways, because I expect the next, 20 or so larva to just be pure Hydra. I really do think that trutaCz is going to make an attempted bust onto Tech, maybe, or at least act like he's going to. We see that the 6th hatch is going down at mid-right, so maybe not. Maybe he will go for a drone cycle to try and get his econ going. Look at that sick micro. The Zealot is so low, but he manages, actually 1 health, he manages to save it, so that's really nice.
Yeah, Mr. Fister 69 slapped down that Zergling dog real quick and walked away with his life, so it's a really good play there from the Mister. And Zerg, yeah, it looks like 6 hatcheries going. It is really interesting to see this builder from trutaCz, the fast lair. Really, when you're going, I mean, it can represent drops, it can represent lurkers. So for a Protoss to scout it, I'm wondering, is trutaCz trying to mind game Tech, or is he just going that fast lair to have access to Overlord speed? Seems like that's what he usually is doing, because now this is exactly what he did last game. He does have that 6th hatchery. He does have a lot of drones and Hydralisks. Doesn't look like he's interested in going into Spire anytime soon. Of course, Tech, we saw earlier that his core was spinning, but he only has 2 Corsairs out on the map, so kind of not making any more Corsairs than that. Zealots are pushing out. They are going to meet the Hydralisks here near the 3rd base from trutaCz. 1 Zealot does go down. Nice pick off by the Hydras. Behind this, Tech is going up to 6 gate. The Zealots obviously at this point in time kind of want to push out, put some pressure on, and allow you to get Templars behind it and get Storm to really solidify your natural as the Protoss player. And yeah, I mean, trutaCz, we'll have to see if he sticks to just Hydralisks or if he tries to go into Mutas or Lurkers.
That is a lot of Hydras, and supplies are very close, 88 to 75. The Zealots are going to tuck tail and turn around. I see that 3 Templars are sitting and waiting. I think, they don't have enough energy right now, but it is very close. I think trutaCz, will not overstate his welcome. As you mentioned, it looked like 6 or 7 gate for Tech. Big drone cycle at mid-right. He's got so much econ going, does trutaCz. He's got 6 hatches, evolution chamber is done, plus the weapon should be done or pretty close to being done. Still no Spire though, so that's something that is very unusual from trutaCz, because he's one of the players that does love to go for a Muta switch, but he's not going to have that option available to him. I did notice he is mining gas at all of his bases though, so that makes me think that we may actually see mass lurkers.
Well, I mean, last game he also had a flood of gas, but never really used it, so we'll have to see about that, Nyokin, but definitely Lurkers should be in production right now. I think, honestly, trutaCz was quite fortunate to get away with it last game. I think if Sneazel had played just a bit more solidly, he would have converted that into a win. So it's surprising to see trutaCz not really make any adjustments here. He is still just making Hydralisks. He does have a gas bank, like you said, but no lurkers in sight. He is trying to basically just micro Hydras, and remember, this is turn rate 14. It's not like they're very responsive either. It's gonna be scary to be trutaCz, but the problem with cross spawns, again, coming back to this discussion, is that it is hard for Protoss to just move across the map and keep their units together. So it does allow for Zerg, hold that thought, he does come in here, snipes 1 Templar, a Storm goes off, gets 2 Templar for basically 5 or 6 Hydralisks, totally worth it. And is he going to get another one? No, it doesn't look like it, but he is poking and prodding here, does snipe an Observer though, so not just Templar that are on the menu for these Hydralisks, but also the little floating buggers.
Well, that's because lurkers are actually out. He has 7 sitting at his 3rd base. This isn't even the entire army of trutaCz. He's just going for some light harassment. Meanwhile, in Tech's base, he has 8 gates. Not able to pick off those 2 Templars, but this is going to be a ton of production coming out for Tech. He also has double forge. So he's going to hit 2-1 quite soon. Now, we've talked about this before, the rotational asymmetry of Polypoid. It all comes down to the angle of attack that Tech wants to take. He can come from the top left side, but he's going to have to fight uphill. But at the same time, if he comes through the center, we've seen time and time again, just like in the Dragon games, where the Zerg player just loops around and hits you with a big flank. So both options, not really ideal for the Protoss player. So we'll wait and see what he opts for. For now, it looks like he's going to be taking a third base. And this looks like it might be an overextension from trutaCz, because this army of Protoss is huge.
Yeah, this is insane actually from trutaCz. He's putting himself into not the best of positions, because now Protoss can basically use the high ground to their advantage, and they have a lot of Storm to work with, a lot of Dragoons here. The Zealots are going to come in. trutaCz with the secondary force off to the side, but the Lurkers do get picked off, and trutaCz is being extremely aggressive. But honestly, at this point, you know, Lurkers... Oh, a couple Templar go down, though. This is huge. The Storms do go off onto the Hydralisks, though, and that's not a lot of Hydras supporting these Lurkers. The one Templar that had 2 Storms goes down. These Templar are just running to their death, but the thing is, there's so many Dragoons firing on top of these Lurkers that they are going to kill them, and trutaCz is trying to snipe that third Nexus, but he's not going to be able to get it. I don't think. He is losing so many units, and this is such a big win for Tech.
Yeah, this is a bit dicey for trutaCz, because sure, he got a lot of the Templars, but you can see he realizes the threat of a potential counterattack, instantly puts down a couple more Sunkens, instantly morphs a few more Lurkers. I was looking at the supply. It looks like trutaCz is still within range of holding off an attack. It was something like 110 to 135. So even without the Sunkens, I think he would have held. But for now, he is going to put up a couple Sunkens. He is going to morph some Lurkers, and it looks like Tech's decided that mid-right is the base to attack. And trutaCz is starting to run away with it. He's got macro hatches going down at his third base, but look at that massive flank setting up in the center of the map.
Yeah, I mean, trutaCz is so good at maneuvering his units and keeping track of multiple groups. That's really his strength here, and you can see he kind of baits the Protoss out of that blob formation, gets a couple pickoffs, then leaves. So really well played from trutaCz, and Tech needs to be ultra disciplined with his move out. Always keep his units together, take his time. Another Templar goes down. This is sick from trutaCz, just so clinical. He really is like a surgeon here, kind of dissecting the Protoss body one limb at a time. Of course, in this case, it is one Templar at a time, and pulling him apart, really, he's like butchering him into small little pieces. But, you know, Tech does still have quite a decent supply count. He does have a big army. So if Tech manages to essentially regroup and kind of focus his army into one spot, he might have a really decent attack timing here, because you can see trutaCz is actually still on lair. The Filer Mound's nowhere in sight. So these Dragoons and this army composition from Tech, as the supplies go up, is just going to get more and more dangerous. But he needs to keep these Templar alive.
I like what trutaCz is doing. Just like in the Sneazel game, he's just making it really chaotic. He's going for these constant backstabs. The third base cannot be attacked from trutaCz. There's just too many Lurkers set up. There's no way that Tech can bust it. Also, trutaCz cannot bust the base of Tech. Well, actually, that's not that many Lurkers. If he can get off some nice Storms onto the Hydras in the back, I think maybe he can. But he's taking so many Lurker hits, and almost all of the Zealots are gone already.
Yeah, not executing that perfectly there. The Zealots were just taking so much damage. Now trutaCz, he does see the blood in the water. He is going to pounce on top of this Protoss force. Storms going off, though. Some nice connections, but the problem is this Protoss force was whittled down too much. And again, trutaCz sniping all those Templars earlier on meant that this force basically only had 3 Templars to work with, which is not what you want to be at. You want to really be floating around 6 Templars, at least at this stage in the game, to really have Storm at your disposal. And, you know, without Storm, you just can't win any of these fights. And now trutaCz has basically evened out the supply count, so really he's in a 6th spot. The only thing is, Tech does have a 4th base.
Yeah, 4th base is up for Tech. That was a huge drone cycle right there. 9 drones being produced on trutaCz. The Lurker is the hero in this defense, softening up those Zealots so much, and then going to be finished off by the Hydras. Really took almost no damage. But Tech is still in this. He's got really nice upgrades. It looks like that said 3-2. He's got his 4th base up. His main and Nat are about to run dry, so he needs to start thinking about getting mid left. Now that's something we haven't seen all day long. Support Bay, so this could be speed shuttled or it could be reavers. I personally think it's going to be reavers because they're so deadly on high ground, and you know there's tons of high ground on Polypoid. Looks like trutaCz is going to try and bust bottom middle, but I don't think there's enough here. There's so many Hydras and Lurkers coming in, but they're kind of choked up on the ramp. How many storms are available? That's a beautiful storm. He does manage to kill, oh my god, 11 kills, and those were all probes, so at least he's got that. But I think the 4th base may survive.
I don't know, Nayokin. I mean, these cannons, the backline, are going to be able to clean up a lot, but I think trutaCz is going to reinforce this position any time now. Okay, finally, Tech does get a couple of units. Those storms are on point, though. Does lose 1 Templar, but does clean up the remainder of this Zerg strike force. And now trutaCz still coming in with a couple of Hydras. Just really have been, these Hydraless death squads have been the bane of Tech's game this time around, and really Tech kind of getting picked apart at every turn. And now trutaCz has top left. He's up on 5 base. He did deny mining from this 4th base of Tech for a really long time, and not just that, he also killed so many probes, as you pointed out earlier, Nayokin. So really, Protoss kind of down in the ditches in terms of his economy. And, you know, you can see that reflected in the supply. He used to have this healthy 30 supply lead on the Zerg, and now he's behind around 20. That's really not where you want to be as Protoss.
Yeah, top left is up and running for trutaCz. 2 more macro hatches set up there. I think he's approaching like 11 hatch production. Just insane production from trutaCz. Meanwhile, his upgrades were great too. I saw Hive has just started. He's even starting to take bottom side of the map also. And I mean, what do you do as Protoss? He's really not had a good trade at all the entirety of this game. Even when he's looked like he had an army advantage, the flanks have just been immaculate. And now I think Tech is obligated to kind of just play passively for the next minute or 2 or 3 minutes, and that's giving up map control completely to trutaCz. Also, all of those key Hive upgrades are going to kick in.
Yeah, and trutaCz has impeccable mechanics. You know, a lot of Zergs in this situation kind of struggle with converting their huge supply lead because they just don't have the APM to move everything around. But if you look at the mini-map, he's taking every single base, he's moving all his units, he's attacking, constantly pressuring the Protoss player. You can see this is where trutaCz hits his stride. This is the skill level of someone who's won 4 BSLs, who's had multiple appearances in the very late stages of it. Once he gets going, he's just so unbelievably strong. And really, Tech, he missed his opportunity, and once he lost that fight, that key engagement around the 12 o'clock, or rather the 3rd base from trutaCz, the mineral only, I mean, it has been downhill ever since. And, you know, I think against any other opponent, Tech probably would have had the time to do exactly what you said, Nayokin. You know, we've seen some of the Zergs in this tournament and in the previous BSLs have a hard time from this spot, but trutaCz is unrelenting. Look, he's taking every spot on the map, he's expanding, he's playing beautifully, man.
But this is what you do when you have map controls. You take as many bases as possible. You should even start transferring workers to these other bases because the chances of your main Nat 3rd base being busted are so low. And it also means when you mine out those bases that Protoss will never get that base because it's mined out. So I love what trutaCz is doing. I also love how he's really not overextending. He realizes that, hey, Protoss has 4 bases, but I mean, he's really only mining 1, and I have 4 or 5 bases up and running. Now, I think this was a little bit of a mistake to not have a contain to deny bottom right, because Tech has managed to get this Nexus up, or at least it seems like he's going to get it up, but Protoss has to commit a lot over there, and that's going to open up the left side of the map. I wouldn't be surprised if trutaCz tries to just YOLO bottom left.
Yeah, and here comes a lot of Zergs. A lot of Zergs, man. But honestly, Protoss has a decent amount of units here. Zealot, Dragoon, High Templar composition. The 4 Templars here do have enough storms, but it looks like with the Zerglings getting on top of the Protoss forces, it is pretty hard to storm them without storming your own units. And TrueTouch, of course, Hive kicking in. Looks like those Lings do have... No, they do have Crackling and they do have upgrades, so they're just kind of chewing through these Protoss units. And now Tech plummeting in supply. Look at how much pink and magenta, but look at how much Zerg there is on the map, and TrueTouch is holding every single position because he does have enough supply to do that, and he's really just kind of like a boa, really constricted, like whatever, the snakes that constrict you and like wrap around you. And Tech, GG's out. TrueTouch, damn, narrowly avoiding disaster there. He really played his heart out to make it out of this group. And you know, at the start of the day, if you look at this group, you're like, oh yeah, TrueTouch for sure makes it out first place. But he had to play 3 tough ZVPs to get out, and you know, almost lost basically almost all of them. Even Tech was in a really good spot that game. So amazing performance from TrueTouch to be able to keep it together and advance, honestly.
Yeah, I thought when we were watching the Sneazel game that it just wasn't TrueTouch's day, because Sneazel was so close to taking him out, but then he brings it back with really sick unit movement across the map. That single-handedly salvaged the game, and it wasn't a fluke, clearly, because he did the same thing in the rematch versus Tech. Is he just outmaneuvered Tech every step of the way, and the flank in the center of the map at the third base, or the mineral only of TrueTouch, that was absolutely fantastic, and that completely changed the tides of the games. If you were thinking like, well, Tech has a chance versus TrueTouch, that completely went out the window as soon as that happened. So nicely done from TrueTouch, and finally we got a game that looked like TrueTouch of the old, so that at least is going to, or he's at least going to end on a high note. But we have finally wrapped up the round of 24. We've been through all 6 groups and we found our top 16 players. So I'm trying to think back who made it out. We've got TrueTouch and Michael. We've got Hawk and Dragon, our NA representatives, along with Michael. Terror and Boa, SPX Medino, Fork, Avilov, Dandy, and Gorinitz. So some pretty stellar players moving on into the round of 16.
Yeah, and not just that, Nayokin, but today is going to be the group draw too. So you guys don't want to miss that. I don't know if we're gonna go. I think Zero is gonna be taking care of that, right? Okay. So yeah, once again, guys, that's gonna be it for the round of 24. Big shout out to everyone that's donated over the weekend. I mean, in one weekend. Nayokin, do you see that number up there? Oh my god, I always point out the wrong one.
I see it.
See that?
It's huge.
$2,000 in one weekend. Again, the community support, absolutely incredible. And again, obviously, Esport Fund is amazing for sponsoring us, and much of StarCraft in general these days in 2020 and 2021. But Nayokin, hit us up with the Patreon.
Yeah, so at the $100 level, we have our Bombastic Generals, Andrei Strebkowski and Star Lover. $50 Bombastic Colonel, Grail and Striker. Tupacalypse and Gruglog at the $30 level. And at the $20 level, we have X Civil War X, Christian, Eddington, Mad Cat's Fury Road, Martin, Hardsmer, LML, Lingenpump, and Comchack. And all you other Patreon supporters out there, thank you so much for supporting the BSL. Again, you can get the replays of all the BSL games, I think, if you become a $20 supporter. I have to confirm with Zero exactly what that level is. Yes, $20 at the $20 level, you get all of the replays. So definitely consider becoming a Patreon supporter. And remember, we also have the BSL shop. I recommend the socks, but you see Gypsy modeling the shirt and the sweatshirt. It looks pretty sick. So definitely check out the shop and make sure to get some of that sick swag.
Dude, those, I'm telling you, man, those polos look swag. I gotta buy me some of those. But yeah, I mean, make sure to check that out. Seriously, they're really nice quality too. And they just actually look very stylish. Like they're pretty nice, not gonna lie. And bombastic. I mean, don't you want to be bombastic in front of your friends and everyone else in real life? But yeah, so definitely an exciting round of 24 that we had, guys. You know, really solid groups and very, very strong players making it through. And next week, so again, every Saturday, Sunday, you guys can tune in to the BSL. But for this week, you know, I'm Guy, he's Nye. You know, you're going to catch us next week, but stay tuned because Zero is going to be doing the group draw for the round of 16. So you get to see, and we're adding in the top finishers and for the ladder, the people that got seeded into the top 16. So along with all the players that Nyokin talked about earlier, you're going to get Boneth, Oya, Koget, and the Walt in there as well. So really exciting. Don't miss out. It's coming right up. But again, I'm Guy, he's Nye, and we're out.